Good day. My name is Ken Weismantel, and this is the second of a series on Hopkinton water. Today we're going to talk about Hopkinton's water needs. Why would you be interested in this subject? The answer to how much water Hopkinton needs will impact your water rates in the future. Hopkinton is currently headed towards the most expensive capital and operating cost solution to needs that have been established by our consultants and the Hopkinton DPW staff. Are these needs realistic, and will the project be approved by the Water Resources Commission and supported by town meeting voters? Let me give you a little bit of my background speaking on this subject. I'm a current member of the Water Resources Commission for 10 years. I am the former member and chair of the planning board for 2 terms, served as chairman for 6 years. I'm a former member of the Department of Public Works Commission, former member and chair of the Water and Sewer Commission for 2 terms. And I've been in a lot of other different community organizations within town. Professionally, I've been assistant to the city engineer in Waukegan, Illinois in my early college days. My employment experience includes process systems and contracts with government agencies. I have done some consulting in my career, and I have a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering and Master in Industrial Administration from Purdue University. I'm speaking here as a Hopkinton resident. I'm not here to represent the Water Resources Commission or state how the staff might react to our application for an interbasin transfer. However, I have been involved in several interbasin transfer approvals while I'm on the commission. The Water Resources Commission enforces the laws regarding the transfer of water from one basin to another and across town boundaries. The Water Resources Commission mandates water conservation efforts in the Commonwealth. And this last year, I voted to accept the performance standards for guidance to inform Water Resources Commission staff and applicants on how interbasin transfers would be evaluated. Why does Hopkinton need 2.7 million gallons a day from the MWRA? This was the first question asked when Hopkinton first met with Water Resources Commission staff about 1 year ago. And the staff was very surprised that the Hopkinton DPW and our consultant didn't have a good answer. Why does this matter? The amount of need changes what the engineering and the economic solution would be to Hopkinton's water needs. As an engineer, I was always taught to define the problem first, then come up with the solution. The amount of water need affects the investment that the Hopkinton water customers will be expected to pay for. Already rates are rising, 40% last year and at least probably 10 to 15% in the next few years, in anticipation of connection costs and the higher cost of MWRA water. Water availability can affect Hopkinton's residential and industrial growth. What is the 2.7 million gallons a day purchase required based on? Well, our current maximum daily use was recorded at about 1.7 million gallons a day. And then they add on 100% of private wells connecting to the public water system. This is because they think that PFAS is going to make that requirement. And 100% of any developable lot in the future being built will connect to the Hopkinton water system. That's 0.3 million gallons a day, 300,000 gallons a day. 100% of industrial commercial lots being built and connecting, 70,000 gallons a day. Full development of all the MBTA Communities Act zone, 160,000 gallons per day. School system growth, 40,000 gallons a day. Major biopharma, another 40,000 gallons a day. It adds to a little bit more than 2.7, but all of these are not very realistic needs. Let's review the numbers and the assumptions. The town, and especially the Board of Selectmen, acting in their role as water and sewer commissions, should understand what our DPW and their consultants are using as the basis of need for determining the design requirements of the project. The numbers have major implications for the future of the town. If town meeting doesn't approve this vision of the future, they will say no to construction after wasting money on the design. So, the current maximum usage is 1.7 million gallons a day. Or is it? Hopkinton has an unaccountable water of at least 16%, probably closer to 20%, and has been as high as 27% in 2021. Unaccountable water is simply what is purchased or pumped from the wells minus what is billed to the customers. And also they allow you to deduct documented flushing losses. If that 16% was all water that was lost due to leaks, our maximum daily usage, if we fix the leaks, would be 1.4 million gallons a day. Now, the Water Resources Commission has a conservation standard of less than 10% unaccountable for water. So in essence, we expect a good system to be in the 10% range. Is it leaks? Is it flushing losses? Or low reading meters? This has been a problem for over a decade. The Water Resources Commission will condition any interbasin transfer approval to address unaccountable water. Hopkinton should start fixing it now. If it was a private business and I was wasting 20% of my revenue or giving away that much, I don't think I'd be employed for very long. It's difficult for the Mass DEP to issue water management permits and the Water Resources Commission to find the need for an interbasin transfer with such a large unaccountable water over 15%. That's the number that's used in the procedures for determining water management permits. Operating budgets should include annual M36 water audits, leak detection, meter replacement or calibration, and these should be in the budget this year and every year. Most of these are not in the budget that was recently approved by town meeting. You need to document leak detection and meter replacement history and the success you have with that in order to get through unaccountable water. The history of unaccountable water in Hopkinton is basically currently around 16%. I think it's a little bit higher because I've seen unmetered hydrant flushing as I write on in the meter the hydrant right in front of me during the summer. Mass DEP does not believe our unaccountable water submittals, and Hopkinton has a history of not fully justifying our water needs under the Water Management Act. As you can see, our performance from 1918, which is the number that is on the DEP website, to now is not a very good performance. The need for additional water for neighborhoods contaminated with PFAS. In my last presentation, I talked about PFAS and where it's in Hopkinton and what areas you have to worry about. The 1.6 million gallons a day for this assumes that all houses on private wells will be connected to Hopkinton water system. What studies has the town done in the neighborhoods to justify that? What streets, how many houses, how many condos have PFAS issues? unknown. My PFAS presentation showed that majority of the homes on private wells do not have PFAS problems. But if you're in certain areas on the east side and the west side of town, I would be suspicious that my well might have PFAS. My PFAS presentation also showed that it is significantly less expensive to install whole house treatment systems rather than extending the town water mains. The significant costs of extending town water mains is not included in any of the MWRA cost estimates. And if it was done under the betterment, it could be over $25,000 per household. The next number was the need for more water for residential growth. They put in 300,000 gallons a day, assuming that all new residential growth will be connected to the water system. This is 20% more homes. Putting on my planning board hat, there's few large parcels available. Where is the next big development? 20% of the homes is kind of a legacy farms type number. I don't see those available in town. And most of the very few large open parcels are not near existing water mains. Developers will not pay to extend the mains a long distance. It's significantly cheaper to dig a private well. And as long as the land is being developed as it is currently zoned, there is low potential for new big developments. The Water Resource Commission would need a lot more backup info to act on this desired increase in our water needs. And the real question to ask is, will town meeting voters vote to pay to have water customers, which is 60% of the people in town, invest in water system to encourage residential growth? I'm not sure that one would pass. The need for more water for industrial and commercial growth. The 70,000 gallons a day for 100% of the remaining industrial and commercial lots being built and connecting. This is certainly within our stated plans for encouraging industrial development and generating non-residential taxes. Water use has been higher in the past than the current levels on South Street. COVID obviously has decreased the number of people in the offices, and EMC's been scaling back on the number of people that they have working in Hopkinton. There are a few vacant buildings on South Street today, and so our water use and our sewer use is a little less than it was a little while ago. But town water mains exist on South Street, downtown, and even the Legacy Village Center if it was ever built. So it's reasonable that there could be more demand for industrial and commercial growth in town. The next item was 160,000 gallons a day for full redevelopment of all MBTA community zones. I don't have to remind you that just recently, when the town approved this, they approved it with the expectation that most of them wouldn't be built because the existing development on the land is more valuable than what a developer would pay for the land to build apartments. Also, much of the MBTA community zone has Hopkinton town water already. If you put out the 160,000 gallons a day, that would assume that 3 people per unit above what is currently being served would be in this zone. That is completely unrealistic. Most of these apartments have 3 to 4 people in it. A lot of them are going to be 1-person or 2-person apartments. So this whole 1.6 or 0.16 million gallons a day is not realistic. So this is another need was 40,000 gallons a day for school system growth. This doesn't make any sense at all. Let's say we had 400 additional school kids, which is a high number from what anyone's projecting. That would mean they get another 100 gallons a day per kid. The kids that are already in the school are using water as it's needed. The standard in Massachusetts for residential consumption is 65 gallons a day per person, and that includes the showers at home. Nobody showers at the schools, and also dishwashers and washing machines, et cetera, that aren't in the school. This number is completely unrealistic for the school need. Also, the grass fields should not be on potable water. Most of our town fields are on their own wells. They don't use town water. The school system doesn't contribute to the peak water usage in the months of July and August. The kids are at home for the most part during those 2 months. So this number is completely unrealistic and should not be included. The next one was another 40,000 gallons a day for new pharma work. Hopkinton is a great location and the zoning is favorable to pharma usage. I was on the planning board or chairing the zoning advisory committee when we changed the zoning to make it that way. We want to encourage pharma to work in Hopkinton. However, I agree with our water and sewer manager that a large water user would not locate here because of our lack of water and sewer infrastructure. 40,000 gallons a day is low if we expect to attract a pharma manufacturing facility. Might be reasonable for an R&D facility doing pharma. However, we have to look at the demand for pharma manufacturing and lab facilities in Massachusetts. It's very low right now. There's lots of vacancies in communities that have MWRA water. How does Massachusetts compete for pharma compared to other states? Our cost of energy is high. Our cost of water is high. Our income taxes are high. You know, we just don't compete well for new businesses. And then looking at it locally, how does Hopkinton compete when we factor in the increased real estate taxes that are going to be used to support our school building and the increased school operating costs? Can Hopkinton compete tax-wise with the surrounding communities that have the same location, such as Southborough, or Westborough, or Milford, or Marlborough? And after Hopkinton raises their water rates for the water connection and pays MWRA rates, Hopkinton can't compete on water rates. And if water is at the expense of this pharma, they're not going to choose Hopkinton. In addition, supporting our pharma and other industrial users on South Street, do we have the sewer treatment capacity for extra water? The Milford wastewater treatment plant is more expensive sewer treatment than Westborough or our own Fruit Street plant. And if more wastewater goes to the Charles River via Milford, it is an interbasin transfer. The current application needs to state what the receiving basin is and whether or not the existing Milford interbasin transfer has enough capacity. And finally, should the Hopkinton water rate payers invest in a water system to benefit several landowners on South Street with an absolute minimal impact on our real estate taxes? So summarizing where we are. In the middle, I have a column of what I consider realistic usage. The first one is the 1.7 current use. If we solved and found a few leaks, it could be, let's say, 1.6. Could be a lot lower if we found a leak. Other communities have found huge leaks and have brought their unaccountable water down a lot. It's either leaking or it's not reading in the meters. The second one is to connect all existing homes. I'm dropping that by 500,000 gallons a day because home PFAS treatment systems, if they're needed, is the solution economically, and it is the lowest cost solution if that's a problem. And we clearly know that PFAS is not in all private wells in the town of Hopkinton. The next one was a 0.3 million gallons a day to connect all new homes. I'm going to give this one a little bit higher amount because I think their infill of some existing neighborhoods and a few subdivisions and maybe ADUs could connect. I'm probably a little bit high on the 0.2, but I'm being generous on that one. The next one was the 700,000 gallons or 70,000 gallons a day to connect new industrial commercials. I agree with that one, and I'm hopeful that our efforts to attract industrial growth in Hopkinton will result in a higher vacancy, or higher occupancy on South Street. I can't agree at all with the MBTA zoning overlay. It's not a millions. It is not 160,000 gallons a day. It's significantly less. Maybe there'll be some more development in the downtown area, kind of like what's going on at Hopkinton Drug. And, I'm willing to put another 20,000 gallons a day in for that portion. School expansion, that's a zero. We already talked about it. The kids aren't in school during the peak times. The non-peak times, we can easily handle the realistic needs of these school kids. The pharma, I think we're so uncompetitive that the chance of getting there is significantly less. So I currently come to 1.99 million gallons a day. And we need to be realistic on our maximum long-term needs. Because what this number does is determine how we design for the solution. So, the Water and Sewer Advisory Board is currently studying this. The chair estimates 2 to 2.2 million gallons a day. Chair and I are pretty darn close to where we think the number should be. I think we approached it a little bit different ways, but it's good to see that he's come up with a number similar to where I'm at. However, the Water Sewer Advisory Board and the Board of Selectmen should get more public input at a public hearing on the future water needs. The citizens need to get involved. They're going to be asked to fund the biggest expenditure after the schools for this particular project. The town needs to study PFAS contamination a little bit more to ensure that private well owners are aware of the potential solutions and whether they are really needed, and quite frankly, make them available recommended home treatment systems, which will be the lowest cost for any household that does have high PFAS levels. Another thing is the town staff needs to talk to the Water Resources Commission staff to find out really what they need to justify it. I could be being very generous as to what I would allow. They're a lot more stingy on what the needs are. And our water needs permit has always been, I'm going to say, on the low side, but we haven't exceeded what the state has given us for that. So what is the Mass DEP needs forecast for Hopkinton, and what will the Water Resources Commission accept as a meaningful, realistic need number? And at that point, you're also talking to them, and you'll find out whether or not what information they need to decide between approving additional Massachusetts Water Resources Authority water, or using treatment plants and maybe a small connection to the MWRA to satisfy all our needs. However, I guarantee the answer is not the current proposed 100% switch to the Water Resources Authority system. So you need to finalize the need first, then design the solution. 2 million gallons a day is a lot easier problem to solve than 2.7. Now that we have a realistic need, let's find the least expensive solution to supply clean water for Hopkinton. Local solutions may reduce the amount for an interbasin transfer, or maybe even eliminate it. Most Water Resources Commission interbasin transfers that have been approved in the last couple of years keep the current wells in place, requiring treatment and blending with MWA water. A good question to get Water Resources staff thoughts on it before additional detailed design is done. The Water Resources Commission consideration will be whether or not cost or technical reasons are why treatment of local sources cannot be done. Local treatment can be done faster than getting an interbasin transfer approval. The Water Resources Commission is required by the Act that sets up interbasin transfers and the approval process for that to keep in-basin sources operational, if technically or economically possible, before they approve any connection to the MWRA via an interbasin transfer. Treatment can be done. What is the current well yield is one of the key issues. Are the two unused well sites on Fruit Street and the one on the Pratt property viable sources? Most likely they are. That's why we bought that land and designated as potential water sources. The current practice of purchasing Ashland water from the treatment on the Hopkinton Reservoir will not be replaced by MWRA water. This water is treated, PFAS-free, is less expensive than MWRA water. It's in basin and currently provides 600,000 gallons, about 40% of our maximum daily needs. So we have, at this point, we've lowered the need number. We subtract out the Ashland number, and then we're probably designing for a 1.4 million gallon a day need for clean water, as opposed to 2.7. As an engineer, that's a lot easier problem to solve. So here's a teaser for the next presentation. Next presentation is on the Interbasin Transfer Act approval process. What's involved, why the laws will not permit the purchase of 2.7 million gallons of MWRA water as currently being designed, and has Hopkinton been wasting money on the current design? Maybe a presentation on a cost-effective alternative to that will follow as the fourth in this particular series. So I thank you for listening. I hope you got a little bit better understanding of Hopkinton's water needs. Of course, you can email me in care of HCAM with any questions, or Hopkinton residents can give me a call to discuss this presentation or any of the things that I've recommended in it. I thank you very much.